the European Union has finally endorsed a historic trade agreement with the South American Mercosur bloc, marking a pivotal moment in international trade relations. This long-awaited decision signals a new era of cooperation between two major economic regions, each bringing unique strengths and opportunities to the table. This breakthrough comes after more than 20 years of challenging and often stalled negotiations, with countless late-night sessions and intense debates shaping the final outcome. The agreement will establish one of the world's largest free trade zones, connecting over 780 million people across two continents and facilitating the flow of goods, services, and investments on an unprecedented scale. For the EU, this deal is a strategic move to diversify its supply chains, reduce dependency on single markets, and counter China's rapidly expanding influence in South America. It's about securing economic resilience and strengthening global partnerships. Yet the path to approval was anything but smooth. Fierce internal divisions had to be overcome, with European farmers voicing concerns about increased competition, and environmentalists warning of potential threats to the Amazon rainforest and global climate commitments. The Council of the European Union ultimately gave its narrow approval, reflecting the deep anxieties and passionate debates that still surround the agreement's potential impact on both economies and the environment. For the European Commission, this is a significant diplomatic victory, demonstrating that the EU can still forge ambitious global partnerships, even in the face of internal resistance and external pressures. The deal is expected to open vast new markets for European products, from automobiles and pharmaceuticals to machinery and agricultural goods, potentially boosting exports and creating new opportunities for businesses across the continent. However, the journey is far from over. The agreement must still pass a rigorous ratification process in the European Parliament, where opposition remains strong and debates over environmental standards and labor rights continue to spark controversy. As the EU-Mercosur story unfolds, it now enters its most critical and closely watched chapter yet, with the world looking on to see if this landmark deal will truly reshape global trade. The story of the EU-Mercosur agreement is one of extraordinary persistence and complexity. It all began in 1999, when leaders from both regions set out on an ambitious journey to create one of the world's largest free trade areas. Their vision was to unite Europe and South America, linking over 700 million people through a comprehensive agreement that would boost trade, investment, and cooperation across the Atlantic. Yet, what seemed promising at first soon became a marathon of negotiations. Talks dragged on for more than 25 years, repeatedly stalling as both sides clashed over sensitive issues like agricultural and industrial market access. The EU was reluctant to open its markets to South American agricultural products, fearing competition for its own farmers. Meanwhile, Mercosur countries worried about being overwhelmed by European industrial exports, which could threaten their local industries. These deep-rooted disagreements led to years of suspended talks, highlighting just how difficult it was to reconcile such different economic priorities and interests. In 2019, negotiators finally reached a breakthrough, sparking hope that a deal was within reach. However, optimism quickly faded as environmental concerns, especially over Brazil's Amazon deforestation policies, triggered fierce opposition across Europe. Several European parliaments, led by France, refused to ratify the agreement, citing worries about climate change, deforestation, and the need for stronger social and environmental standards. The fate of the deal became a powerful symbol of how environmental and social issues now shape the EU's approach to global trade, forcing negotiators to rethink their priorities. Only after adding new safeguards and commitments did the agreement move forward, but even now, its future remains uncertain. Caught between economic ambition and the growing demand for sustainability, France has been the epicenter of resistance to the Mercosur deal, driven by its powerful agricultural sector. French farmers fear competition from cheaper South American products, especially beef and poultry, produced under different standards. President Macron demanded that imports meet strict EU environmental and health rules, reflecting deep-rooted political pressures. Environmental groups also opposed the deal, warning it could accelerate Amazon deforestation and undermine climate goals. The Bolsonaro era in Brazil intensified these fears, making the deal politically toxic for many Europeans. This alliance of farmers and environmentalists forced the EU to demand stronger safeguards before moving forward. The Commission had to address these anxieties to keep the agreement alive. For European industry, the Mercosur deal is a major economic opportunity. It will eliminate high tariffs on EU exports, cars, machinery, chemicals, opening lucrative South American markets. The German automotive sector and advanced manufacturing firms stand to gain the most. The agreement also opens services and government procurement, letting EU companies compete for contracts in Mercosur countries. These provisions are as valuable as tariff cuts, especially for Europe's competitive services sector. The deal is expected to save EU companies billions in tariffs annually, making it the bloc's most lucrative trade pact. Strategically, it helps the EU diversify partners and counterbalance China's influence in Latin America. The agreement cements the EU's role as a global standard setter in trade. For Mercosur, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, the deal is a chance to modernize and expand exports. Preferential access to the EU market will boost agricultural exports, especially for Brazil and Argentina. While quotas remain on sensitive goods, the agreement opens significant new volumes for South American producers. The deal also encourages investment and regulatory reform, helping Mercosur countries move up the value chain. Aligning with EU standards attracts European investment and drives modernization. The agreement serves as an anchor for domestic reforms and signals Mercosur's commitment to global rules. It reduces dependence on China and strengthens Mercosur's position in global trade. For the bloc, this is about more than exports. It's about global influence. The breakthrough came with political shifts in Brazil and Italy. Brazil's President Lula reversed Bolsonaro's environmental policies, committing to protect the Amazon and re-engage with climate efforts. Lula's government worked with the EU on a new sustainability annex, addressing key European concerns. In Europe, Italy shifted from skepticism to support, driven by industrial interests and a desire for greater EU influence. Italian industry lobbied hard, seeing big opportunities in Mercosur markets. Italy's support broke the deadlock, isolating France and securing the qualified majority needed for approval. Germany's backing and Italy's pivot gave the deal unstoppable momentum. The decision reflected a calculation. The risks of inaction now outweighed the costs of compromise. The stage was set for final approval. To win support, the EU added tough new safeguards to the deal. A legally binding sustainability annex commits Mercosur to the Paris Agreement and halting illegal deforestation, with monitoring and sanctions if breached. The EU can suspend trade preferences if environmental promises aren't kept. Sensitive farm products like beef and sugar remain under strict quotas, limiting their impact on EU markets. A safeguard clause allows tariffs to return if imports threaten EU industries. The Commission also pledged financial support for farmers facing disruption. These measures reassured enough member states to move the deal forward. While not all critics were satisfied, the balance tipped in favor of approval. The Council's vote was dramatic, exposing deep EU divisions. Germany, Spain, and most Nordic and Eastern states led the pro-trade camp, with Italy's shift proving decisive. France, isolated, failed to block the deal despite last-minute efforts. The outcome was a setback for President Macron and a win for the Commission's trade agenda. The vote signaled a renewed pro-trade consensus, but also left scars, especially in Franco-German relations. The result may embolden the EU to pursue other trade deals, but tensions between open markets and high standards persist. Macron now faces domestic backlash, especially from farmers. The vote was about more than trade. It was a battle over the EU's future direction. The underlying conflict between economic ambition and regulatory caution remains unresolved. With the Council's approval now secured, the deal moves forward but faces its most challenging hurdle yet: a rigorous test in the European Parliament. This is where the fate of the agreement will be hotly contested, and the outcome is far from certain. The Parliament is deeply divided, with passionate and sometimes heated debate expected to erupt over the potential economic benefits of the deal versus the significant environmental risks it may pose. Lawmakers are weighing the promise of new trade opportunities against concerns about deforestation, climate commitments, and the impact on European farmers. The final decision will likely rest with centrist and center-left groups who find themselves caught between strategic arguments for economic growth and intense pressure from NGOs, labor unions, and environmental activists. These groups are being lobbied from all sides, making their votes unpredictable and crucial. Even if the European Parliament gives its consent, the process doesn't end there. National parliaments in all 27 EU member states may still need to ratify certain parts of the deal. introducing another layer of complexity and potential obstacles that could delay or even derail the agreement. Meanwhile, environmental groups and farming organizations are already mobilizing across Europe, staging protests and campaigns to block ratification. Their influence is growing, and their voices are being heard both inside and outside the halls of power. In response to these challenges, the European Commission may attempt to provisionally implement certain aspects of the agreement, hoping to demonstrate progress and avoid lengthy delays while the full ratification process unfolds. The fate of the EU-Mercosur deal remains highly uncertain, serving as a major test of Europe's ability to balance its ambitious trade agenda with its commitments to climate leadership and sustainable development. The world is watching closely as the EU enters the final and most decisive phase of this landmark agreement, with global implications for trade, the environment, and international cooperation.